was a threat because he awakened people. Malcolm X is one of the most powerful and complicated figures of the 20th century. A man who rose from poverty, crime, and prison to become one of the most influential voices for human rights, dignity, and truth. Loved by millions, feared by those in power, and silenced before the world could fully understand him. This is the real story of Malcolm X. Malcolm Little was born on May 19, 1925, in Omaha, Nebraska. His childhood was marked by chaos, violence, and racism. His father, Earl Little, was a strong leader, a Baptist minister who believed Black people deserve freedom and self-respect. But his activism made him a target of white supremacist groups. The family's home was burned. They were threatened, attacked, and forced to move again and again. When Malcolm was only 6, his father died. The official story said it was an accident, but the family believed he was killed by the same groups that had been terrorizing them. His mother, Louise, struggled to raise 8 children alone. Poverty, trauma, isolation. By age 13, Malcolm was sent to different foster homes. His family was broken apart by force. Even as a boy, Malcolm understood one thing very clearly. The world he lived in didn't want him to rise.
Do you consider yourself militant?
I consider myself Malcolm.
In school, Malcolm was one of the brightest students. He dreamed of becoming a lawyer, but when he told his teacher, he was told, "A lawyer? That's not a realistic goal for a Negro." That moment shattered him. Malcolm left school at 15. He moved to Boston, then to Harlem. Both cities were alive with music, fashion, gambling, and crime. Malcolm quickly became known as Detroit Red, a hustler with sharp clothes, sharp words, and sharp survival instincts. By age 20, he was arrested and sentenced to prison for burglary. For most people, a prison sentence is an ending. For Malcolm, it was the beginning. Prison transformed him. He read every book he could find: philosophy, history, politics, religion. 6 to 8 hours a day, he copied the entire dictionary by hand. He rebuilt himself from nothing. And during those years, he discovered the teachings of the Nation of Islam, a movement led by Elijah Muhammad. They taught discipline, pride, independence, and a powerful message. Black people must stand up, educate themselves, and never bow to oppression again. Malcolm embraced this new identity. He gave up alcohol, gambling, and his old life completely. He replaced Little, the name given by slavery, with a single letter, X, a symbol of the unknown African name his ancestors lost. When Malcolm walked out of prison at age 27, he was not the same man. He was sharper, stronger, focused, and unstoppable.
You feel, however, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide?
No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull the knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
Once free, Malcolm X rose with incredible speed. He became a minister, a spokesman, a force of nature with words that could cut through silence like a knife. Crowds filled auditoriums just to hear him speak. Newspapers called him the most dangerous black man in America. Why? Because Malcolm told the truth, loudly, when others stayed quiet. He spoke about police brutality, broken communities, poverty, and the psychological damage of racism. He wasn't saying what America wanted to hear. He was saying what America needed to hear. Malcolm X became one of the most recognizable faces of the civil rights movement, and that made him powerful and dangerous in the eyes of those who wanted the status quo to stay exactly the same. As Malcolm's influence grew, so did the tension around him. Inside the Nation of Islam, some leaders felt threatened. They believed Malcolm's rise was too fast, too public, and too powerful. And outside the movement, the United States government was watching closely. FBI documents show that Malcolm was monitored for years. His phones tapped, his speeches recorded, his organization infiltrated. Then in November 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Malcolm made a controversial statement, calling it the chickens coming home to roost. The Nation of Islam suspended him. After more than a decade of loyalty, Malcolm X was suddenly alone. But he didn't fall. He transformed again. In March 1964, Malcolm officially left the Nation of Islam. For the first time in his life, Malcolm X was independent. No leader above him, no organization controlling him. He formed new groups, traveled internationally, and built alliances with world leaders from Africa to the Middle East. And for the first time, Malcolm saw oppression not just as a Black American struggle, but as a global problem. In April 1964, Malcolm made a pilgrimage to Mecca. It changed him. He saw Muslims of every color, Black, white, Arab, Asian, eating, praying, and living together as equals. He wrote letters describing his shock. It forced me to see the world in a new light. I met people who were sincere, regardless of their color. Malcolm returned to America with a new name, El Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, and a new vision. Oppression was not about race alone. It was about power, about injustice everywhere. But this transformation made him even more of a threat. He was no longer a local activist. He was becoming a global human rights leader. And that made powerful enemies everywhere.
No, I don't worry. I tell you, I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago. And I live like a man who's dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
By late 1964, Malcolm X had enemies on multiple fronts. Inside the Nation of Islam, some saw him as a traitor. Some wanted revenge. Others feared his growing influence. The FBI knew tensions inside the movement were rising, and instead of easing the situation, they quietly allowed it to escalate. Malcolm's home was firebombed while he and his daughters were sleeping. Threats increased. Every speech he gave, every step he took, felt like a countdown. But he didn't stop. He refused bodyguards. He refused to hide. He told his wife, Betty, "If I die, it will be for telling the truth." And he kept talking, kept writing, kept teaching, because Malcolm knew he didn't have much time left. On a cold Sunday afternoon in New York City, Malcolm X arrived at the Audubon Ballroom to give a speech. Hundreds were there, families, activists, young people searching for direction. At 3 p.m., he stepped to the microphone. He greeted the audience. Seconds later, chaos, a shout, a distraction, gunfire. Malcolm X was shot multiple times. He collapsed on stage. Betty, his pregnant wife, ran toward him screaming. He was pronounced dead shortly after. 39 years old, a man who lived several lifetimes in one. Malcolm's death sent shockwaves across the world. Was it the Nation of Islam? Was it the FBI? Was it something deeper? For decades, official stories were questioned. New evidence appeared. Old files were unsealed. And in 2021, 2 men wrongly convicted of killing Malcolm X were finally exonerated. Proving the truth was more complicated than anyone imagined. But Malcolm's influence never faded. His ideas about human rights, police brutality, systemic injustice, identity, and self-respect are more relevant today than ever. His speeches are studied worldwide. His face appears on murals from Detroit to Dakar. His autobiography inspires millions every year. Malcolm X was not just a leader, not just a revolutionary, not just a man of his time. He was a man ahead of it. Malcolm X lived a life shaped by pain, loss, courage, and transformation. From a broken childhood to a global symbol of truth. His journey teaches us that a person can rise from nothing, challenge the world, and leave a legacy too powerful to erase. This is the story of Malcolm X, a man who changed history and whose voice still echoes today.
I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.